So yeah, Starfield is back in the news yet again. This time, players are apparently disconnected from the realities of game developing. I'm sure this is going to go over well with the gaming community. And then we got some wild updates about the day before because the negativity has spread to another studio that is not even involved with the day before. Yikes. This game is like a curse. And this one I'm actually looking forward to. Yeah, we got to talk about the Fallout 4 next gen update. But you know what? Check this out right here. So yes, the new year is right around the corner and I'm already getting started on my first New Year's resolution, which is saving money, but also eating healthier. And that's where Factor comes in. Now, Factor ships delicious, cost-effective, and healthy meals directly to my front door, and they are all pre-made and ready to go. So that way I don't have to spend tons of time prepping my meals during the day or cleaning up a messy kitchen afterwards. And most importantly, I can get that jump start on my New Year's resolution of saving money, time, and eating healthier. So join me right now and get your Factor meals delivered straight to your door. Use my link or go to go.factor75.com and use code POGOPENDC50 for 50% off your first box. Click the link in the description below or scan the QR code on the screen with your phone. And what's really cool is the amount of variety Factor offers for my meals. They offer meals for my breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and they also have meals for keto, low-calorie, vegan, and vegetarian lifestyles. They also have 34 meal options and 36 plus add-ons like smoothies, keto shakes, desserts, and more. And all these meals are healthy too, which helps my fitness goals, and you can have them delivered 4 to 18 times per week with the ability to modify your food preferences at any time and frequency of food delivery, which is super convenient. So yeah, join me right now and get your Factor meals delivered straight to your door. Use my link or go to go.factor75.com and use my code POGOPENDC50 for 50% off your first box. Click that link in the description below or scan the QR code on your phone. And a huge shout out and special thanks to Factor for sponsoring this video. All right, so yeah, we're going to start out with Starfield with this headline right here. It says Starfield dev claims players are disconnected from the realities of game developing. Oh boy. So we're going to go to the source of this, which is a Twitter thread posted by Emil Pagliarulo. Hopefully I got that right. And of course, he is, it's highlight over this, should tell us the studio design director at Bethesda Game Studios. And yeah, we're going to go into this right now. So it says long, 1 out of 15. So bear with me here. We might not read every single one of them, but it says, funny how disconnected some players are from the realities of game development, and yet they speak with complete authority. I mean, I can guess what it takes to make a Hostess Twinkie, but I don't work in the factory, so what the hell do I really know? Not a lot. But listen, I think that you would know something went wrong with the development of the Twinkie if it was moldy or maybe the stuffing was missing. So I'm just saying. And that's not to say you're going to throw away the whole Twinkie. There's probably still some good stuff in there, you know? You're going to bite around the mold. I know I've risked it before. My point is, there are good games that are not perfect. And again, I feel that way about Starfield. It is not perfect. I definitely still enjoy it despite its faults. And I know some people hate me for saying that, but whatever. But yeah, if we continue onward, let's see what he has to say next. So yeah, it gets interesting. It says, part of me really gets it when you're a consumer and spend money on things that gives you the right to complain about those things. I spend a lot of money on games every year, and sometimes it takes a lot for me not to scream into the internet's collective consciousness. And his reason for this is interesting. He says, I don't complain about games on social for two main reasons. Number one, I know how hard it is to make games and have too much respect for my fellow devs. Number two, I work for a game studio and it would be uncool and unprofessional for me to do so, but sometimes I want to, oh boy. And that's where we come in. So we can be like the developer's voice box, I guess, and complain for them. Now, he goes on to say how he gets how difficult it is to develop games from that standpoint. He does have a very unique perspective, don't get me wrong. He's in the trenches. He gets it. He sees the love that is poured into these games on all sides, from the concept artists to the actual designers, everything in between. It would be quite something to witness, you know, for years and years, and then the game drops and then it essentially gets hated on. That would be rough. Yeah, he goes on to say this right here. See, I never knew this before, but if nothing else, video game development is a series of concessions and tough decisions. There's that perfect game you want to make, and then there's the game you can make. Sometimes if the gods smile on you, those two are very close. Furthermore, he says, but in order to get there, in order to get as close as possible to the vision, the team has to push itself harder and harder, often while dealing with the devs being shuffled around or leaving, looming deadlines, and creative decisions you wish you didn't have to make. All right, let's keep going, shall we? So he goes on to say this. So sure, you can dislike parts of the game, you can hate on a game entirely, but don't fool yourself into thinking you know why it is the way it is unless it's somehow documented and verified, or how it got to be that way, good or bad. Furthermore, he says, chances are, unless you've made a game yourself, you don't know who made certain decisions, who did specific work, how many people were actually available to do that work, any time challenges faced, or how often you had to overcome technology itself. This one is huge. That's definitely interesting. I kind of wish he would expand upon what he means by technology itself. Of course, during the development of Starfield, you did have like new generation, next generation consoles released, I suppose. But that just means you have more power you can actually harness. So it's interesting. Of course, with Starfield, it's essentially running on an upgraded engine from like Skyrim, the Fallout games and stuff like that. So you would think the veterans of Bethesda would be intimately familiar with what they're doing with this engine. It's just so strange that the engine itself, the technology, wasn't upgraded in terms of streaming. Like, there's so many loading screens in this game, even as opposed to a game like The Witcher 3, which is extremely old. But there are some cool things, don't get me wrong, that Starfield actually did do right. Like, for instance, like the ragdoll physics for the actual enemies, I thought was a definite improvement. And then the lighting engine and overall fidelity of the graphics is definitely an improvement over what we saw with Fallout and Skyrim. But yeah, it makes me wonder if some of these dev teams should take the Baldur's Gate 3 approach, and if they're like kind of overwhelmed by the technology, don't release everything all at once. They did a staggered release for Baldur's Gate 3 because they were honest with themselves. They prioritized what they needed to, and we're also seeing that with other game developers. Maybe that's just the way to go. I don't know. And then he wraps it up by saying this. So yes, love games, buy them, play them, and complain to your heart's content. It's sort of the nature of the developer-player transactional relationship. But just know that the game you're playing is in some ways a freaking miracle in and of itself. Normal people have come together to work for years for one goal, to bring you fun and happiness. So it helps to remember that. And then, despite Starfield's flaws, there's still a part of me that loves Bethesda because of Skyrim in particular. I still love that game. And with Starfield, I think the team is just going to have to power onward and get to Elder Scrolls 6. Of course, the expansion for Starfield is going to be telling, and 2024 is going to be interesting to see what actual bigger updates they can pull off for this game. I'm not going to hold my breath that this is going to be a Cyberpunk rework overhaul situation, but yeah, we'll see. But yeah, still curious about these new ways to travel. I think that could potentially really improve the game if they coupled that with fleshing out the more exploration areas with some interesting things to do. Now that would be very cool. And I have to highlight this reply here. It says, I feel that most reasonable people who are criticizing Starfield understand that concessions have to be made. These people aren't simply saying the game needed to be better. They're saying that Bethesda should have designed Starfield differently in order to make it better. And even Emil replied here saying, and that's absolutely fair, I was referring to the unreasonable people, smiley face. Gotta say, at least the exchange here is kind of refreshing. They're not like ripping each other's heads off. But yeah, that comment was 100% on point. But yeah, the numbers don't lie. I always like to go to the objective numbers for a game to see what's really going on beyond emotion and things like that. So check it out. So we are currently sitting about 12,000 active players right now in Starfield, a peak about 15,000 concurrent players. At least on the Steam side of things, you can argue about, yes, PC Game Pass and that sort of thing. But right now, Starfield is definitely on a downward trend. So much so that, yeah, Skyrim has definitely still surpassed it, as you could see right here. This game is well over a decade old. And I always like to compare Starfield versus another big AAA game, open world RPG single player title specifically. And of course, we have that comparison with Baldur's Gate 3, which again is just doing staggering numbers. I think this is what Bethesda was kind of hoping for and expecting for Starfield. I do think the expansion could bring the numbers back around a little bit, but I don't think we're going to ever see that staying power that, like, say, Skyrim had. And guess what? That's okay. I'm actually looking forward to Elder Scrolls 6. Let's see if Bethesda can regroup here, be humbled by this experience, and give us something absolutely out of the ballpark crazy with Elder Scrolls 6. You never know. But yeah, mentioning Bethesda, there is some unfortunate news, but I also praise game developers for taking their time. Check this out right here. It says Fallout 4 Next Gen update delayed to 2024. And yes, this is officially revealed by Bethesda. We don't need to get into any further tweaks. It's going to be redundant. So yeah, I say do what you have to make the game right. And I really hope that they nail this one because, yeah, Fallout 4 would be really, really cool to revisit it with like updated graphics and that sort of thing. And oh boy, we have got to talk about, yes, the smash hit game The Day Before. So yeah, there, of course, was some more news about The Day Before. We got to get into this. So first of all, yeah, they posted, if you missed it, that the studio is closing down. Of course, Day Before has been unlisted on Steam. But this post right here, let me pull that back up. They have this whole thing here. I'm not going to read all of it. I'm sure you guys have seen it. But man, it has kind of spun into something new here. It says DayZ Rust teams troll The Day Before Studios closure announcement. And if we go back to Twitter, we have this DayZ who posted something similar. And they said this right here. Today, want to primarily celebrate for no reason at all the remarkable 10th anniversary of DayZ. So they're kind of like making fun of the post. And you can see Russ did the same thing here. And they're basically celebrating their game and poking fun at the scam that was The Day Before. Let me tell you why. It was just an absolute scam. One of the worst scams in gaming history by far. But I am glad that players were very aware of what they were getting into before this one released, because I feel like they were pretty much exposed out in the open before this one even came out. Yeah, I remember jumping into this one being like, I was kind of like excited to see what was going to go wrong, to be honest with you. And I knew like most likely this game was going to be refunded and approved with the refund, despite being in early access. And a lot of people were like, hey, you're not getting your money back, Robbie. Because I show at the end of this video here how I refund it. And I did get my money back. So yeah, I'm sure most players will be getting their money back from this one. Yeah, the scam didn't work. But it's also kind of sad what has happened here with this game, because the negativity has spread beyond The Day Before, beyond Fantastic, the dev studio. Check it out right here. It says, The Day Before controversy leads to bad reviews for another studio. And this is kind of like unfortunate that this has happened. If we get into this, yeah, this is a mess. So it says, however, according to data on Steam DP, it appears that the developer name for the Wild 8, another game from the same studio, was changed from Fantastic to 8 points. Now hold up here. There's way more to this story. This poor game, the Wild 8, and this other studio is caught up in this. It says, due to Fantastic's lack of credibility, it's natural to assume that the studio attempted to covertly rebrand itself to escape the ire of the gaming community. That being said, the truth appears to be much simpler. A different studio altogether wanted to distance itself from the Fantastic brand. And yeah, it appears that is exactly what is going on here. Because yeah, this game, it's ended up truly being like a curse in the gaming industry in so many ways. You can see here that Fantastic actually had to reply to this and say, we're closing. Rumors suggesting that we have changed our name are not true. We have not been affiliated with the Wild 8 for many years. And it sucks to see this. The Wild 8 is actually getting somewhat review bombed currently because there's so much confusion as to what's actually happening here. And it's really, really unfortunate to see, because you can clearly see for years and years the game sat at mostly positive. The curse is spreading. I really do hope that those that left negative reviews because of The Day Before catch on to this and actually remove their negative reviews, because this just sucks to see. All right, so it's my favorite time of every single video, and that is your top comments. Remember, leave a comment down below. It could end up here in a future video, so let's do this. All right, so Jerry666BC says, I really enjoy playing the game. The only problem I have is that the planets just don't make sense. I land on a planet where there's tropical plants and animals walking around everywhere, and my scanner tells me it's negative 220 degrees cool. I land on another planet where there's ice and snow everywhere, and my scanner tells me it's 33 degrees above. Nice. Such a well-balanced game you have given us, Todd. So yeah, there's some major oddities going on there with, I don't know if it's the randomly procedural nature of this, but yeah, That's one thing that needs to be addressed big time. I don't know if they could go in there and do a procedural update to those systems, but they're even like going in and reworking like the quest system for some reason to really identify some of the major errors and bugs with that. So maybe they could do something similar with the procedurally generated systems. Not to say that they're going to, if they're going to put that much effort into it, but again, they got that Microsoft money. That's all I got to say. All right, now we got Funny Conflict, who says, I have to agree with those modders. It's a lot of work for a game that I think few will stay to play in the long run of things. But Bethesda Game Studio realized they dropped the ball, and a lot of the magic in the first few weeks dissipated as more glaring issues arise. It's like for every positive that the game has, it comes back with one or two negatives. For instance, shipbuilding is so good, but yet you cannot preview what bays you are using, cannot dictate which side the doors or the ladders will be on, nor can you permanently decorate the inside of your ships because it'll reset after changing ships. You see, that's one positive, and then there's like three negatives. And that is the same sentiment I felt throughout my gameplay. A bipolar roller coaster of a ride. Yeah, and it's like you do have to bear, the good with the bad and the bad. I see what you're saying there. It's just not going to have that staying power of Skyrim, I want my Elder Scrolls 6. That's what that tells me. I want my Elder Scrolls 6. All right, so next up we have this. I never got a rock companion. In my opinion, they should make it into a quest line where you can have a semi-sentient rock companion. Smiley face. Maybe they can make that into a thing, but I think like the rock companion glitch that we saw is going to be one of those endearing glitches. Those weird glitches that were like, do you remember the rock companion? That was kind of actually funny. And then we have this one right here. Awesome thing to hear from Bethesda. Hopefully they can stay on track. So it does seem like there are some of you that are excited to see what can potentially happen with the bigger updates for Starfield and, of course, that expansion in 2024 and beyond. So, yeah, there's still things to potentially look forward to. I myself, I want to see what happens with this game when it comes to the modding scene. That is going to be very telling for the future of this game. If we see some really, really cool mods that fix a lot of the core issues with the game, like the exploration, the randomly procedural nature of things, like kind of being boring or being completely boring out there when exploring, that definitely needs to be addressed. Hopefully modders can really fine tune that sort of experience for us. And maybe even give us like really cool vehicles. I can dream. All right, so yeah, there it is. Some Starfield and Day Before news. I plan to cover some other games, so look out for those. Again, leave me some comments. If you made it to this point of the video, please tell me what you would like to see in the future on the channel. I have some ideas, but yeah, would love to hear from you guys. But thank you all so much for watching. Stay tuned for more, and I will see you all next time. Take care.